Wendy is an art teacher. This morning, someone pranked her by putting glue on her coffee mug. She questioned 3 suspects. Blair says,
I didn't do it. I was too busy painting these beautiful flowers.
Jason says, I overslept and came to the studio later than you. And Zara says,
Why would I do that? You're my favorite teacher.
who did it? It was Zara. There's a glue pen in her pocket. Wendy gives her students a task and leaves the studio. After a while, she returns and sees this painting. She says, Wow, who painted this masterpiece? 3 students claim to be the author of the painting. Can you guess who tells the truth? To solve this mystery, we should take a look at their palettes. Only this student has all colors that match the painting. Wendy goes outdoors to buy some food for lunch. Suddenly, she sees a cyclist lying on the ground. Can you guess what happened here? In fact, the car hit the ketchup bottle. The cyclist just fell nearby and got stained. Wendy receives a delivery. 3 identical boxes with artist supplies. All boxes are labeled incorrectly. Wendy needs to label all boxes correctly by opening just one of them. Can you help her? Since all 3 boxes contain the wrong items, Wendy should open the 3rd box. If it contains watercolor, the first box will definitely have brushes, and the second box, watercolors and brushes. And if she finds brushes in the 3rd box, the first one will contain both watercolors and brushes, while the second one, watercolors only. The delivery guy walks outside and yells, Hey, call the police! Someone stole my car! The police begin an investigation and find these 3 suspects. One of them is a thief. Can you guess who? The first guy is just coloring his fence, and the 3rd one is a gardener. But the second guy is hiding a lockpick in his shirt pocket, so he's the thief. Wendy comes to a party. 3 guys invite her to dance, but one of them is a werewolf. Can you guess who? The first guy is just wearing a werewolf costume. The second one has some scratches, but it proves nothing. But the 3rd one has a real wolf tail. After the party, Wendy wakes up in a cell made of ice. She only has a pickaxe in her hand. Meanwhile, her best friend Zach is locked in a similar cell with a drill. Can you predict who will escape? Only Wendy will escape. Zach can't use a drill without electricity. The next day, Wendy arrives at the art studio. She leaves her takeaway coffee at the desk and goes to the toilet. Wendy returns and finds out that someone had drunk her beverage. She checks the cup surface for fingerprints, but she only finds her own traces. Wendy questions 3 suspects among students. Blair says, Sorry, I've been washing my brushes in the sink. I didn't look at your desk. Jason says, Sorry, I don't like coffee, and besides, I've been streaming stories for my followers. And Robin says, I was changing in the dressing room to be a model for portrait class. Can you spot the thief? It was Jason. Take a look at his back pocket. He's hiding rubber gloves. That's why he didn't leave any fingerprints. Wendy receives an emergency call. Someone had stolen paintings from her art studio gallery. Wendy interrogates 3 suspects among the visitors. Sarah says, I came here to buy some of your paintings, but when I entered the gallery, the walls were empty. Jill says, I went blind 7 years ago, so I didn't see anything. I only visit this gallery to use your toilet. And Robert says, Why would I rob this place? I'm the major investor. Who's lying? Jill, if she's really blind, why did she bring this photo camera with her? Wendy carries out entrance exams for art students. One of these 3 artists is left-handed. Can you guess who? It's the third guy. It's easier for lefties to hold a palette in their right hand and paint with their left. This way, his left hand works and the right one stays static. During exams, one guy named Bobby gets very sick and faints. Wendy calls the ambulance and takes him to the hospital. She's just met Bobby, so she doesn't know his relatives, but still. Wendy manages to notice his wife in the hospital right away. Can you spot her too? It's the first lady. They have identical tattoos, and the third lady has a similar mole on her cheek, so she's probably Bobby's sister. Doctors suspect poisoning, so they keep Bobby in the hospital to make tests. Meanwhile, Wendy returns to the studio and questions 3 witnesses among the applicants. Sheila says, "Bobby didn't look healthy in the first place. I don't blame him. Everyone was stressed out during exams." Sam says, "I have no idea who poisoned him, but this person is heartless." And Xavier says, "I think Bobby's just pretending to be ill to get accepted out of pity." The next day, Bobby calls Wendy with the test results. He was poisoned. Wendy calls the police right away and they arrest one of the witnesses. Can you guess who and why? Sam. He knew about the poison before the test results were ready. The next morning, Wendy enters the studio and sees that someone has left a hot mess. Canvases are torn and paints are spilled all over the floor. Can you count all the brushes in this room? "13. What about the glass jars? Can you count the exact number? There are 8 glass jars in this studio, including this broken one. Wendy asks her 3 students, "Who's responsible for this mess?" Nina replies, "I think it was David. He never washes his hands and clothes. He's such a weirdo." David says, "It was Nina. She's just jealous because her paintings weren't selected for an art exhibition." And Amber says, "I don't know who did it. Yesterday, I was feeling sick and stayed home." Who's responsible for this mess? Take a look at the canvas frames. They're all signed. The only canvas that wasn't torn has David's name on it. Therefore, he ruined the studio and his rival's works. Wendy asks her students to the park for an en plein air class. Can you see any weird details in this area? This is an apple tree, but why are there so many oranges under it? 2 students have painted almost identical pictures. Can you help Wendy find 3 differences? Here they are. What about these portraits? Can you spot 3 differences? Over here. After the class, Wendy is trying to leave the park and gets lost. She has to walk through this confusing maze. Can you help her find the way out? Only the first path is correct. On the way home, Wendy enters a supermarket. Can you count the number of cacti? 6. Someone had broken the most expensive car in the parking lot near Wendy's apartment building. The police interrogate 3 witnesses to find out who's guilty. Carl says, "This is my car. I parked it as usual and went home. Wendy woke me up with her call." Gia says,
I was just having a yoga class in a studio nearby.
"This car belongs to my ex-boyfriend Carl. Too bad he loved this car more than me." And Peter says, "Carl's my neighbor, but he's not my best friend, if you know what I mean. I've been working all day and just arrived." Who broke Carl's car? It was Gia. She's hiding a baseball bat inside her yoga mat.
Are you ready for a new detective journey? Then buckle your seatbelts and let's go. Mary was walking through the park when she spotted a hungry kitten. The woman decided to share her snack with the animal. Unfortunately, there was a stream between her and the kitty. She squatted down to attract the cat's attention and showed it the food. The animal was next to her in no time. There was no bridge over the stream, and still, the cat wasn't wet. How is it possible? It happened in the winter and the stream was frozen. In a lake, there is a patch of lily pads. Every day, the patch doubles in size. If it takes 48 days for the patch to cover the entire lake, how long will it take for the patch to cover half the lake? The patch doubles in size every day. So on the 47th day, the patch will be half the size it is on the 48th day. You are in a place called Bobby's World, and there is only one law there. There is a mirror, but no reflection. There is pizza with cheese, but not with ham. There is pepper, but no salt. There is a door, yet no entrance or exit. What is the law in this strange world? Everything in Bobby's World must contain double letters in its name. Kenneth was hungry.
Oh my God!
He found a nice diner that served burgers and bought one. After a waiter brought him his order, Kenneth went to the bathroom to wash his hands. But when he came back, his burger was gone. The guy looked around the diner and understood who had taken his lunch. Can you figure it out? It's the young woman with a dog sitting at her feet and sniffing the air. If she was just drinking coffee, which is what she's pretending to do, the dog wouldn't be so interested in her. Look at these two guys. One is big and burly, and the other is short and thin. They're in a cafe, drinking identical drinks. The shorter one gulps his drink down in one go and leaves. The other man sips his drink slowly. Then he falls to the floor and is taken to a hospital. Can you explain why it happened if they had the same drinks? The drinks contained poisoned ice cubes. The man who enjoyed his drink gave these ice cubes time to melt and release the poison, while the other man didn't. An Arab sheikh told his two sons that they had to race their camels to a distant city to see who would inherit his fortune. The one whose camel arrived last would win. After wandering aimlessly for days, the brothers asked a wise man for advice. After listening to his opinion, they jumped on the camels and raced as fast as they could to their destination. What did the man tell them? The wise man told them to switch their camels. Look at these two guys. They're wearing similar clothes, both holding coffee cups, and in general, seem to be perfectly okay. But one of them is a werewolf in disguise. Which one? Look at the guy on the right. There are strange marks on the rim of his cup. Were they left by his fangs? Also, His pupils are a bit elongated. And there is a paw print design on the plastic bag he's holding. Is it a special store for werewolves? A rich entrepreneur disappeared from his office. The only thing he left behind was a note with the numbers 6, 4, 9, 10, and 11 and a calendar. The police have 5 suspects. All of them the businessman's acquaintances. James, Kevin, Carol, Jason, and Laura. Who knows something about the man's disappearance? Jason. The numbers mean months of the year, and the first letters of these months make up his name, Jason. A furious traveler at the airport claimed the contents of his baggage had disappeared. When I got my suitcase, it was empty. I want you to compensate for what I've lost. After checking the passenger's info, airport security found out that he had indeed left London with a heavy suitcase, and now his bag was empty and a bit wet. The whole situation was suspicious. Can you figure out what happened? The passenger left London with a suitcase full of ice. During the flight, the ice melted, and the man demanded compensation for the lost belongings. Matthew bought a new smartphone and a phone case. He paid $510. The gadget cost $500 more than the case. How much did Matthew pay for the phone? He paid $505. Last night, on a full moon, several people disappeared in the city. Locals believe that the kidnapper was a werewolf, and you are invited to investigate this case. There are 3 suspects, Jack, Levi, and Luke, but all of them have alibis. Jack was walking with his girlfriend near the river. Levi was choosing a silver ring for himself in the mall. And Luke, who is a museum guard, had a night shift at work. Which guy is guilty? Jack was walking under a full moon and didn't turn into a werewolf. Levi wasn't afraid to put on silver rings. The werewolf and potential kidnapper is Luke. Detective Black's assistant, Josh, was late for work. When he arrived, he told his boss the following story. I was driving along the highway when I saw an unconscious man lying on the left side of the road. I picked him up and took him to the nearest hospital. Finally, he came to his senses. He told me he had been pushed out of a moving vehicle, but the bag with all his money and documents was left inside. Strangely, Detective Black told Josh that the man had lied to him. How did he figure it out? If the man had indeed been pushed out of the car, he would have been lying on the right side of the road, not the left one. Criminals caught 3 men and locked them in a basement with only one window, high above the floor. Oh, no. The men decided that at least one of them needed to escape and warn the police. The men stood on each other's shoulders, but the one on the top still couldn't reach the window. But then they did something, and one of them managed to escape. Can you figure out what they did? The tallest of them climbed on the top, and since, proportionally, this man also had longer arms, he managed to reach the window. You find yourself in a room with no windows. There are 3 doors leading out of the room. Suddenly, a big screen on the wall lights up. You read, "Behind each of these doors, there is some danger. The first door leads to a scorching hot desert. Several steps, and the sun will burn you. Behind the second door, there is a hungry alligator that hasn't eaten for a year. And the third door hides a pool with icy water. To get to freedom, you'll have to swim across it. Which door should you choose to survive?" Alligators can indeed go without food for up to 3 years, which means that the creature behind the second door is hungry and dangerous. Freezing water can cause cold shock in an unprepared swimmer. That's why you should choose the first door. You just need to wait for the sun to go down and walk through the desert.
Oh, yes.
James came to a cafe to drink coffee, but when a waitress brought him a cup, the man found a fly in his drink. He called the waitress and told her to bring him another coffee. She did, But when James took a sip from his cup, he got really angry and asked to call a manager. He complained that the waitress had brought him the same coffee. How did he understand it? The new coffee was already sweet because James had already put sugar in his first cup before finding the fly.
Alrighty, here's the new portion of mind-bending riddles for you, quick-witted detective. Find that magnifying glass of yours, and let's get to work.
Yeah.
Tom disappeared at 10 p.m. on Friday in the fall. A police officer questioned his 4 friends. She suspected one of them had something to do with this disappearance. She asked them all what they had been doing at the time. Adam said he had been choosing an outfit for a date. Daniel was getting ready for a party, which was to take place at his apartment. Sophia said she had been relaxing by doing yoga before her night shift at work. And Jake was watching birds in the park. After questioning the suspects, the police officer arrested one of Tom's friends. Who was it? It was Jake. At 10 p.m. in the fall, it's too dark to see birds outside. Imagine being stuck in Antarctica. You're starting to run out of food, so you decide to scan your surroundings. The snow is so bright, it's literally blinding. At one point, you come across a large fragment of bone with a wide crack enough to fit a knife. You think the bone might come in handy later and take it with you. What's the best way to use it? Crack it and use it as your second knife? Make an eyewear mask? Make a flute to distract yourself from this dire situation? You should choose the second option. An eyewear mask can protect you from a big problem: snow blindness. Sunlight is reflected off the snow and ice in Antarctica and is likely to cause serious eye problems. Okay, this time you're trapped in a large abandoned castle. The lights are out and there seems to be nobody around. You see 3 doors leading out of the creepy castle to safety. But behind the first door, there's a room filled with venomous snakes and spiders. Behind the second door, there's a sheer drop with sharp spikes at the bottom. And the third door opens to an electrified moat. Which door will you risk going through? Surprisingly, the safest option is the third door. You see, the castle is abandoned, and since nobody has lived there for years, there isn't likely to be electricity. The likelihood of the moat still being electrified is very, very small. You'll be able to swim across the moat safely. Let's say that in some mysterious way, you find yourself in a battle arena. 3 creatures are waiting for you, and you need to fight one of them to survive. The first monster has the head of a rattlesnake and the body of a giant ferret. The second one has the body of a gorilla and the head of an alligator. And the third creature has the face and body of a great white shark and the tail and claws of a bear. So, which monster would you choose? The first 2 monsters would be extremely dangerous opponents. Imagine how agile and venomous the snake ferret could be. And the gorilla gator would be too strong for you to defeat. As for the shark bear, you know that sharks have gills and can't breathe on land. So you just need to wait a bit, and this opponent would get out of your way on its own. Imagine a robber is trying to enter your house. You can only defend yourself through the letterbox in your door while they're trying to sneak a peek inside your house. What kind of defense would you choose? A tarantula and a 4-foot-long stick? a 3-foot-long bamboo pole and some frozen peas, or a leaf blower, elastic band, empty paper roll, and several dozen fire ants. The problem with the stick is that it's too short, and there's a chance that the tarantula will get back to you. Uh-oh. Sending frozen peas into the robber's face probably won't be enough to stop the criminal. So, pick the third option. The leaf blower will send the ants into the thief's face through the paper roll, and it will most likely scare the criminal away. How about this mystery? A girl was 10 on her last birthday, but she will be 12 on her next birthday. How is it possible? Well, the girl is celebrating her 11th birthday today. At school, in one of the classes, there were 4 pairs of twins. One day, all the students came to a school event with their parents, and it turned out that there were 85 people in total. Can you figure out how many students there are in the class? Since each pair of twins most likely have different parents, 4 pairs of twins and their parents make up 16 people. The remaining 69 people are ordinary students and their parents. Each of the non-twin students has 2 parents, so the number of non-twin students is 23. So in total, there are 31 students in the class. Stephen called the police to report his valuables were missing. When the police arrived, the man told him his story. "I went on a camping trip alone. I just got there and set up my tent when it started to rain heavily. I hurried to find some dry firewood. I left my bag with my wallet and all the documents inside the tent. When I came back, everything was gone." The police officers didn't believe Stephen and fined him for making a false call. How did they understand the man was lying? Stephen said he had set up the tent before it started to rain. But then, why is there a big puddle inside? Two friends, Anne and Mary, went for a walk. Suddenly, it started to rain heavily. The girls saw a seemingly abandoned house and decided to take shelter there. When it stopped raining, the friends realized they were very hungry, so they went different ways to find some food. Anne saw an apple tree and immediately ate an apple. All of a sudden, she turned into a tree herself. Half an hour later, Mary got to the same spot, searching for fruit and her friend. That's when she heard someone say, "Your friend has been turned into a tree. You must find this tree to bring her back. You only have one chance. If you get it wrong, your friend will remain a tree forever." Mary was terrified. Can you help her find out which tree is her friend? To crack this riddle, you need to think outside the box. Since it rained half an hour ago, all the trees in the forest are wet. The only tree that isn't wet is Mary's friend Anne. Now you need to figure out the logic in the order of the following words: fun, blue, bee, more, dive, pix, barren, date, shrine, then. Actually, it's not hard at all as soon as you say these words out loud one by one. You'll immediately notice that every word rhymes with the number that specifies its numerical order. Fun 1, blue 2, bee 3, and so on. On a beautiful sunny morning, a vampire woke up pretty early and went to the bathroom to shave. He was in the middle of the process when he noticed in the mirror that he had cut himself. He had to go and look for his first aid kit. What's wrong with this story? Well, the main problem is that vampires don't reflect in mirrors. Look at this picture closely. Can you guess who this cute puppy belongs to? A little hint. Pay attention to all the details. You never know what can help you. The dog's owner is the boy in the middle. He's the only one who isn't trying to pet the puppy. And now, can you figure out what's wrong in this picture? Once again, pay attention to the tiniest details. Tick-tock, your time is running out. The wrong detail in this picture is this colorful parrot. How did the bird get there? Parrots aren't known for their love of winter.